Hello, everyone, and welcome tonight. My name is Lee Pfeffer. I'm the manager of museum experience at the GLBT Historical Society. So I run and put together most of these programs, and I am really excited to have you join us tonight for this program. I want to start by acknowledging that the GLBT Historical Society is based on Ohlone tribal land, and I invite any Indigenous folks with us today to make themselves visible in the chat and be recognized as we honor the contemporary and ancestral lives of America's Indigenous peoples. This event is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel and our website. If you're watching with us live, we will be welcoming your active participation in the chat and encourage you to post comments, observations, and questions. We'll be having a lot of wonderful opportunities for you to share your own stories through the chat as we go through these films. Before I turn it over to our host for the evening, who will be taking us through these films, I would like to tell you a little bit about the Society and the work that we do. Founded in 1985, the GLBT Historical Society is recognized internationally as a leader in the field of LGBTQ public history, and our mission is to collect, preserve, exhibit, and make accessible to the public materials and knowledge to support and promote understanding of LGBTQ diversity, history, LGBTQ history, culture, and arts in all of their diversity. We have two sites that our operations are centered around. The GLBT Historical Society Museum, which as of today is officially open to the public once again, so please feel free to go up on our website and reserve your tickets. We're really excited to welcome you back. And that is located in the heart of San Francisco's Castro and has been open since 2011. And starting June 1st, we welcomed our researchers back into our John P. DiCecco Archives and Research Center in our mid-market district offices. So please check out our growing array of exhibitions, events, and archival resources, both in person and online. You can visit us at glbthistory.org. Finally, I want to thank all of our members and donors who make our work possible. If you're not already a card-carrying member of the GLBT Historical Society, I invite you to consider joining today. Members get a variety of perks, including a 20% discount on purchases of cool swag from our online store, and we just got a whole bunch of really, really neat things in there, so I implore you to please check it out. And you also will get access to special members-only events, and you get free admission to the museum, which is, again, now open. You can learn more about how to become a member and other ways to support the Society by visiting glbthistory.org/memberships or glbthistory.org/join-give. And so for tonight's program, I'm really excited to introduce it. This is our inaugural event for our new, well, coming back. We used to have it a couple of years ago, and it's now been kind of reconfigured a little bit. But this is the inaugural event of our new series called Mighty Reels, highlighting home movies, drag performances, amateur documentaries, and interviews with queer history makers. This series, Mighty Reels, is a quarterly program that provides an intimate look at the LGBTQ past straight from the camera lens. Each program, we're going to be featuring a screening of footage from the archives, followed by a discussion with historians, community members, and activists on the significance of these images. Tonight, we're going to be looking at some documentaries that feature Pride footage from the 1970s and 1980s. And tonight, to guide us through these programs is someone very close to the Society. It is Gerard Koskovich. He is a San Francisco historian and rare book dealer, a founding member of the GLBT Historical Society. He's been active in the movement to create LGBTQ archives and museums for nearly 4 decades and has curated numerous exhibitions. Koskovich has presented widely, including talks at the École de Louvre, Kyoto University, and Oxford University. His writing on LGBTQ history and culture has been published extensively in English and in French, and he was also one of our curators for our fantastic exhibition that launched in June last year, which was on the first 10 years of Pride, called Labor of Love. So let's bring on Gerard. So, hello.
Good evening, Lee. Thanks
Hi.
so much. I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, you are the perfect person to be guiding us through these, considering you have watched this footage and this content many a time while doing research for the Labor of Love exhibition. So I'm excited to go through these with you.
Thank you so much. And indeed, I've been in the trenches so long that I actually attended some of the parades that we see in this footage. Not the earliest ones, but some of them. So let's go ahead and get started just with my basic introduction. This evening, we'll be looking back to the earliest years of Pride in San Francisco with two films from the archives of the GLBT Historical Society. The first Pride March in San Francisco was held in 1970. It involved just a couple of dozen gay and lesbian hippies marching down Polk Street from Aquatic Park to the Civic Center. We'll start our viewing this evening 3 years later with the 1973 parade, when attendance at the celebration had grown to an estimated 42,000 people. And we'll end with images from 10 years later in 1983, when the crowd size had burgeoned to an estimated 200,000 people. All the same, even with that enormous growth, as you'll see in these films, Pride was still something of a do-it-yourself event at the time. It was very much a march rather than a parade. It was very informal. There were no barricades separating the crowds from the people taking part in the march down the street. So it was a very homey-friendly event. No massive corporate contingents, very few massive floats. It's quite a different feeling from the parade we know today. Both of the films that we're about to see were created by amateurs who adapted the styles of documentary reporting at the time. And it was a point in time when stories and voices of LGBTQ people were still largely excluded from the corporate media. And there were complaints at the time. There's, for example, Harvey Milk in the Bay Area Reporter in 1975 complaining that the mainstream media refused to cover the parade. They wouldn't give any advance coverage. People didn't know it was going to happen. There was little and odd coverage after the event. So here we have a couple of amateur filmmakers, or a film collective in one case, creating their own news. Now, it's not clear that either of the films we're about to see were shown publicly at the time they were made. Instead, they were very much labors of love prompted by a desire to leave a record of queer lives as seen by queer people, to constitute an enduring memory for LGBTQ people who had been erased from the past as much as they were being erased from contemporary media. And both of the films were made by cisgender white gay men, or in one case by a collective of cisgender white gay men. Yet the filmmakers clearly already were striving to reflect the diversity of the community and to acknowledge the differences and the debates that necessarily accompany struggles about belonging and about claiming public space among LGBTQ people. Those debates and those differences, of course, are ones that we're still familiar with from Pride today. This evening, by watching these films, I would suggest that we honor the dreams of the filmmakers so many years after they produced their work. We're recognizing that the work serves as a time capsule, capturing politics, cultures, styles, and individual expression from the era of gay liberation, lesbian separatism, and the beginnings of visible transgender and bisexual movements in San Francisco. That's very much what these filmmakers were hoping we would do. For this evening's program, what I'll do is offer a brief introduction just before we start the streaming of each of the two films, and then I may jump in periodically just in voiceover while we're streaming the films to point out some historical details of interest. And I'm hoping that among the people who are taking part with us this evening in this online viewing, there are veterans of these early parades, and if so, please use the chat function, the comment function as you're viewing to share any of the memories that you have sparked, to identify the groups we're seeing or people we're seeing, to pass along some stories. You can help us fill out what we're seeing in these films. So the first one that we're going to watch this evening is a film titled Gay Freedom San Francisco 1973. It's a black and white documentary produced by Queer Blue Light, a collective of gay men. I'd like to point out the use of the word queer already in 1973 being reclaimed before many people might imagine it was. The group used early Sony Portapak video technology, a large, clunky video camera that recorded inch-and-a-half wide open-reel black and white videotape. And they produced more than 100 hours of video of what they saw as news reporting about the Bay Area LGBTQ community that was being ignored by the mainstream media. A leading member of the collective, Daniel Smith, preserved the videos and donated them to the Historical Society in 1999. And in a 2015 documentary called Real in the Closet, he offered these recollections of the collective's work, and I'm quoting, "Nobody filmed us, nobody interviewed us, and so we really thought that in order to be recorded, it was necessary for us to do it ourselves. Who was the audience? I don't think we cared. This was for history. It was for the future." And so now here we are in the future, fulfilling their dream that people would be watching these videos. And we're going to take a look at the collective's 1973 Pride Report. It lasts for 19 minutes. So Lee, we can go ahead with the film.
Queer Blue Light presents Gay Freedom.
Gay freedom.
Gay freedom.
Gay
Gay
freedom.
freedom.
Gay
Gay
freedom.
freedom.
Gay freedom.
Gay freedom. San Francisco,
1973.
Pray for bombs, honey. They're making
H.L. Perry, our parade marshal, said that one day a year we put aside our differences and walk down the street together. And that's a very deep statement, because I feel that the ultimate goal of all gay people would be gay liberation, gay freedom, gay revolution, whatever you want to call it, like a better, easier, more comfortable life for us as gay people. And there are lots of differences. We cover, every imaginable aspect of culture is covered by gay people. We're of all colors, classes, and ethnic backgrounds, and all different, sorts of things. And the differences are not going to be solved in a day. They're not going to be solved in a year. I don't know if they're going to be solved. It goes beyond just being gay. It goes into different classes, racism, definitely sexism within our own community. But one day a year, if we all march, whether you think you're marching together or if you just want to march alone as a gay person, but I think everybody should get out and march and show our, like we are gay people who want our gay freedom, our human freedom. We want to be...
Oh, I love it. It's wonderful. All of our people get together and we all just screaming and carrying on, showing everybody that this is our city or this is our lives or whatever. I just hope that everybody comes out for it and gets really out there, especially the drag queens. I want to encourage all the drag queens to come out and wear your best clothing and really show everybody where it's at. I mean, after all, we started the whole thing. I mean, it's Stonewall and everything, so they should get out there and really show it. That's about where it's at.
I'm Maureen from the Windjammer.
Windjammer, that's the book of bars.
Yes, it is.
And how do you feel today?
Oh, fine.
Great. It's a really nice cowboy outfit.
Thank you. I was just cowgirl for the Windjammer last night at Big Town. Oh,
What's the baby's name?
Shamshiel. It means dawn of the morning. He was born in dawn.
To watch the parade, or are you going to take part in the parade?
Well, I'll watch it for a while, but I might get into it.
I certainly hope so. Are you going to go down to the park?
Of course.
Good.
That's where everybody ought to be. At least all the pretty men in the city.
You live in San Francisco?
I do now. I just moved here from New York, but I'm from Texas. Yeah, one of those southern type queens. There's a lot of it.
You know, there's a gay parade in New York going on today, too.
No, I didn't know that. But there was one, there's a big one every year, and it gets pretty crazy there too. So I figured it's just a big talk, that's all. And I don't stand for it either. I usually sit down and...
Hi, what's Bart?
The Crisco Kids.
Crisco Kid.
Right.
There's two of you here in the parade today.
Three. There's another one back there somewhere.
How's the marshling going?
It's going pretty well. We're almost completed.
Has the parade gotten bigger since the beginning?
Definitely. I would say at least by about 5,000 to 10,000. Pat Rocker Enlightened Enthusiasts, which is a drama group and filmmaking group, and we do nothing but homosexual plays and movies.
Currently?
Yeah, well, this next month we'll be doing a variety type show. Last month we did a takeoff on Iolanthe called Fairy Power, and the month before that we did How to Succeed, you know, and Sugar Daddy, things like this. We take regular straight plays and adapt them to all male gay
Where do you
type of
perform?
thing. Cooper's Auditorium in Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood. going by Stanford.
Trying to let people onto the idea that they can bring about some changes and that there is a need to do that. Because most people in San Francisco do just enjoy being in the city, and it's very easy, and this is probably the easiest city in the country to live in for gay men. And most people that move out here, that come here from all over the United States, wind up just leading very comfortable lives.
We're jumping with Golden Gate Park. The parades in 70, 72, and 73 ended with
Are you from San Francisco?
We're from San Francisco.
How did you enjoy the picnic?
We enjoyed it. There weren't enough women. We should have had better publicity for the women's fest.
I love watermelon. All gay people should eat the watermelon every day. It's very good for you. It tastes so good.
Gives you the runs and cleans you out.
We'll give us some watermelon too. They're good. Today has been one of the most beautiful days I have seen. It has really been great. If people all over would get together in groups, knowing groups, we would have no more wars, fights, and we'd all get together. And that's all it is.
They get a place in Sacramento.
Oh yes, for sure.
Welcome all gay men looking to Sacramento, the gay capital of the welcome and many of the gay organizations in Sacramento. Sacramento. Also at 15, 16, 22nd Street in Sacramento. Now, all gays will consider girls, no woman to drop them at any time. And thank you for the interview.
That's about all I gotta say. Do I have a what?
No?
I gotta find something. You have a joint you like the song? You haven't had a good song, Do you have a joint you like the song? No. Are you sure? Now I'm doing interviews. What do you think of the Gay Liberation Front? 24 hours a day. Yeah, nice idea. Ouch! Please? Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to step on your toe. Oh, that's alright. Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to see you. Yeah. Oh, excuse me, I didn't think of the Gay Liberation. You're a nun, I didn't mean to work at you. Yeah, he thinks the Gay Liberation Front should be up front. Fuck the Gay Liberation Front. Fuck them! That's what they do all the time. Fuck everybody on this fucking earth! I mean, fuck them! I hate everybody on this fucking earth! I hate everybody! And fuck you! And fuck you! And fuck me! Are you butching up? I'm fucking butching up for anybody! I don't like nobody! You understand me? The evidence of the problema! And you understand? I don't like you tell you haven't told me! Are we in a mud? Hello! Speak up. Yes, when up. The light comes in that way. Otherwise, it's very hard to see you in here. Hold your head up. Right. Right. Your mother. Yeah.
Really?
What's your name?
Lisa, there aren't any women here. That's all.
What happened?
What?
What happened, do you think? The women aren't here?
I think there's a lot of hostility, you know, between the men and the women here, and they're just not together. And I know for one that we're three from Los Angeles, and we really feel, you know, like we're our sisters. We feel lost.
Did you sense that division in the parade? Did you sense that it was a male-dominated parade and that it was male-planned for males?
Definitely, really.
Would you like to say something? What's your name?
Mary, hi. We were a little bit disappointed. We didn't realize that a lot of the gay women's groups here were not participating in the parade, and they feel a separateness with the men because of what happened the last time parade in San Francisco. But the women and the gay men in Los Angeles work together in a unity, and we're from the Gay Community Service Center. And we really work together. We're getting a lot done for women and a lot done for men in law reform and stuff like that. So. Yeah, come on.
And really, do you want to interview me? What do you want to ask me?
Number 5. What did you do today?
Listen, if I were to tell you all I did today, you know, there would be so long that it wouldn't fit in the tape. So it's okay. I took pictures, I tripped around and all that. Yeah. Running up and down, taking pictures, looking at you. Yeah. Really, come on. do it. It's good to see you anyhow.
Yeah.
Parade organizer Michael Bumblebee.
And Paul Gibson.
Parade coordinators, Diane Richardson.
Wow. And Stephen Ginsburg.
What specific things have you done in working with the other people in the committee? What specific events?
The whole thing. It's as simple as that.
So for me, that's a really fascinating look at the very beginnings of the Pride Parade in San Francisco, in a sense that many of the issues we continue to debate and struggle with were already highly visible for the members of the Queer Blue Light Collective. Now for our second film, we're going to look at a compilation of 8mm movies showing San Francisco Pride parades from 1977 to 1983. And I should perhaps add that in the period, they were not referred to as Pride parades. They were the Gay Freedom Day Parade, or a little later in this period, the Lesbian and Gay Freedom Day Parade. And these ones bring us from the mid-1970s, the end of the gay liberation era, and into the point in time when the AIDS crisis was just beginning to appear in San Francisco. And indeed, for me, it's quite moving to see the footage in some of these parades and to think how many of the men we're seeing would not survive. And in fact, this film was made by an amateur film buff named Lou Perica, who had a career in tech writing and tech communications in several parts of the country. And he was 59 years old when he died in 1989 after a 2-year struggle with AIDS. The collection of Lou Perica's home movies came to the Historical Society as a gift from Daniel McFarland, who had been his life partner for 18 years. And among the films that we received and are now preserved in the archives is a do-it-yourself documentary titled Lou and Dan, a self-portrait that Lou put together about their long-term relationship. We may show that in one of our future programs. So the film we're about to watch is titled Gay Parades 1977 to 1983. Lou Perica himself appears at the beginning of the compilation, opening monologue in which he explains his purposes and his hopes for the film. The full film runs to more than 50 minutes. So for this evening's showing, we've selected about 20 minutes of clips. The entire film is large sections where you simply see people marching past in the parade and you hear selections of Lou's favorite music from the late 70s and 1980s. So we've focused this down a little bit to bring us into some of the more interesting historical parts of the film. And on this one, you'll hear me making more comments than I did on the Queer Blue Light film. Unlike the Queer Blue Light video, Lou's movie consists largely of images and music, and that's why I'm going to provide a bit more voiceover. So now let's go on to Lou Perica's compilation of Pride from 1977 to 1983. Lee, we can start the film.
My name is Lou Perica. I made the films you're about to see. Time is the enemy of memory. Time tends to blur what really happened. Today, Anita Bryant and her Save Our Children campaign are not as threatening as they were in 1977. Her wholesale assault on gay people everywhere acted as a galvanizing force. Gays who were comfortable in their closets responded by coming out. Filming the 1977 gay parade was one of many comings out for me, a process that continues to this day. Briggs in 1978, the right of a gay person to pursue a livelihood was threatened on the sole basis of gayness. That threat was directed at school teachers. But who would be next? Fortunately, the voters of California did not approve of such blatant discrimination. The parade of 1979 attempted to soothe the anger and sadness following the assassination of Harvey Milk, San Francisco's first openly gay elected politician. The parade was a bittersweet affair in its attempt to portray the positive aspects of gay life. In 1980 and 1981, lesbians were a major presence in the parade, and they were everywhere. The focus of both of my films was on the women and on the attempts at harmony between lesbians and gay men. The 1982 and 1983 parades will be remembered for two acronyms, ERA and AIDS. The Equal Rights Amendment failed to be passed shortly after the 1982 parade. This failure was reflected in the lack of participation on the women's float, which featured the ERA. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome cast a dark cloud over the 1983 parade, which some sought to cancel as a result of the AIDS threat. However, the parade went on as scheduled and was dedicated to people with AIDS and in memory of those who have died from AIDS. These films were meant to depict all aspects of gay and lesbian lifestyles, from drags and dykes on bikes to formerly married gays and lesbians. It is my hope that these films, will help to keep the memory green.
At least I didn't fake it, ha-ta. I guess I didn't make it. Get ready for me, love, cause I'm a comer. I simply gotta march my heart to drummer. Nobody, no, nobody is gonna read on my
The 1978 parade, which we're seeing now, was the one parade in which Harvey Milk participated as an elected official in San Francisco, and you'll see some footage of him here in Lou's film. This was the year that there was a ballot initiative that would have banned openly gay and lesbian teachers from teaching in California public schools, the Briggs Initiative. You'll see lots of signs protesting that initiative. The signs that say Bakabi, you'll see at various points, were the Bay Area Coalition against the Briggs Initiative.
For one in my life, I have someone who needs me.
And here is one of the two first rainbow flags. They debuted at the parade this year, and just today at the museum, we unveiled a fragment of that flag that you just saw, the only known remaining piece of the two original flags, just donated to the Historical Society by the Gilbert Baker Foundation. The flags had been lost for 40 years, and we were amazed to see that a portion of one of them survived. You'll see more footage of the flags a little bit later.
There will be no more rain, and the
another early recuperation of the word queer, and there's the ancestors of the Historical Society, the San Francisco Lesbian and Gay History Project. You're wondering about Nancy Reagan. At this point, Nancy Reagan was the First Lady of California as the wife of then Governor Ronald Reagan. And in this contingent, if you look in the next bit of footage, you'll see two people carrying big rainbow flags. This is in 1979. The flags have 7 stripes rather than 8, and these were some of the first commercially produced rainbow flags. And the first appearance of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence in the parade. Here we see the first two flags again. One had a field of stars. That one was displayed in 1979 and stolen shortly thereafter, and no one knows what happened to it. That's John Sinnott, the founder of the Lesbian and Gay Freedom Day Band. I really love this part because we see queer folk reclaiming the kind of contingent one would see in a hometown parade in a small town in the Middle West, only now they're doing it as queer folk.
No matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me. So happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my no matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together.
And note the early bisexual visibility of the parade with the Bisexual Women's Support Group from the Pacific Center in Berkeley.
It's more than you It is more than me. No matter what we are a family. This dream is for all of us. This one can be real. And you can't stop us now because of how you feel. It's more than you. It is more than me. Whatever dreams we have, they're for the family. We're not alone anymore. Now there are others there. And that dream's big enough for all of us to share. So don't think you're not going anywhere. You're staying and taking your share. And if you get afraid again, I'll be there. We are a family, like a giant tree, branching out toward the sky. We are a family. We are so much more than just you and I. We are a family, like a giant tree, growing stronger, growing wiser. We are growing free. We need you. We are a
Gerard, you're muted.
Of Rain's studio, who digitized the two films we saw today and many of the other films and videos held in the Historical Society's archives. John is the person who conceived and organized the original series of Mighty Reels programs a few years ago, and we're very grateful for all of his help in making our film and video collections available to us and to researchers. So let me thank those of you who commented during the showing of the films. Shortly we'll be opening up to any questions or further comments people may have. Let me also remind you that the preservation and presentation of these films is a reflection of the mission of the GLBT Historical Society, and that is to document, safeguard, interpret, and share the stories of the queer past. And you can join us in this work by becoming a member or by making a donation. And if you are here in the San Francisco Bay Area, by signing up as a volunteer. You can visit our website. You can see there on screen, glbthistory.org, and find more information about how to support our organization. As some of you may have seen or heard, just this week, the mayor of San Francisco has stated that in her new budget for the coming fiscal year, she's including a request for $12 million to assist the Historical Society in buying and building a full-scale museum and archive center. That's just a little bit of the money we'll need to make that a reality. So now's the time for all of us to start thinking about stepping up in a major way to build the institution we have all dreamed of having. And now, if there are any further questions or comments about the films, please add your comments and we'll go from there.
I want to thank you, Gerard, for being such a wonderful guide through those films. Just being able to kind of put, your commentary on it, showcase some of the highlights. I personally, when I was, editing and choosing the clips that we were going to show, I really enjoyed being able to focus on just some of the queer joy, and you saw some really wonderful signs and shirts. I loved the what is it? Anita Bryant sucks oranges.
Indeed, to me, this footage shows that from the beginning, the parades were a combination of celebration and politics, of anger and joy, of confrontation and of wit. The one thing we didn't see in any of this footage, and Lee reminds me of this, is that we edited out all of the nudity because you could march down the street in San Francisco in 1973, but you can't do it on YouTube or Facebook. So you'll have to come and see the films at the museum or at the archives to see our community in its full beauty in those years.
Yeah, like Gerard said at the top, the Lou Perica film is about 50 minutes long, so feel free to make an appointment to come into the archives. And we also have lots and lots of other footage. This was one of very, very large collection of a lot of different Pride footage. We just decided to select the ones that had some sort of backing track or some sort of sound, because most of them are silent, and it's a little harder to engage in it in terms of a program unless you're sitting in the research room, in the reading room with headphones on, checking things out.
Indeed, I also liked these two because we had filmmakers or groups of filmmakers, amateurs, who had a real vision. They weren't just making home movies. They were sending a message into the future in a very conscious way. And so for me, it was great to see that engagement and to see how they thought of representing our communities at the time in a critical and nuanced way that I think is still a useful one.
Right. Well, especially back to back, juxtaposing the Queer Blue Light and then Lou Perica film. In the Queer Blue Light film, we saw a section of, many lesbians saying that there wasn't representation and that there were lesbians missing from the floats. And we cut right into, Lou Perica talking about wanting to specifically highlight women's presence and lesbians' presence at the parades and at the festivals and celebrations in the years following, which I thought was really poignant, and didn't fully put together until I saw them side by side.
They make a very good pair.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions or comments, I threw up some wonderful comments. Looks like many of you joining us tonight were there at one or more of these parades and, shared your thoughts. Tamara Chang puts up that these films are bittersweet. Unfortunately, many of the folks that we saw in those films are no longer here, as well as the actual infrastructure and architecture of San Francisco and these streets has completely changed over the years. We see Joe. Thank you, loved it all, and loved seeing the SF Gay and Lesbian Freedom Day marching band, started in 1981. Those are always really fun to watch them go by. Looks like Robert was there too. Robert, which do you have a favorite year that you attended that was showcased in these films, if you could tell us? And I know that there's a little bit of a delay here from us to YouTube, but I would be happy to throw it up.
I'll add one more footnote that at one point there's a gay teachers contingent in the 1978 footage, and he went by too quickly for me to point out, but you see a very young Tom Amiano, who went on to be a school board member, a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and a member of the California State Assembly, one of our great long-term queer political figures here in San Francisco, and one of our great progressives. And there he was as a little young screaming queen school teacher.
I also really enjoyed the person who was walking by, or dancing by rather, with the "Faggots Are Fantastic" shirt, which just always brings me right back to Danny Nicoletta's LGBT San Francisco book cover, and that beautiful
that
photo.
person appears on the cover of Dan Nicoletta's great book, LGBT San Francisco, and originally was part of a postcard, Harley and Hottie wearing that T-shirt. So it was great to see live and in action, stepped out of the postcard.
Yeah. Do you, Gerard, do you have a favorite clip that was one of these, or a favorite contingent that you got to go and look back on?
Oh, it's so difficult to say. I think I would rather say that the other thing I really loved about both of these films is that we see very few of the great, important personages who got up on the stage and made speeches. And those people are important and those leaders are valuable, but these filmmakers clearly saw that what moves our movement forward and creates our community is the great mass of everyday people with the courage to step into the street and say, this is me, this is us, we belong. That's what the parades are ultimately about. And when we don't remember the speakers from year to year, we remember that mass of people claiming the street and saying, we belong here. That's the message that keeps coming home in every one of these bits of footage in these films.
Well, I think that is a wonderful place for us to, we'll wrap up a little early, have everyone have a wonderful Friday evening. I think that's a really, really wonderful sentiment to really ring in 2021's Pride season. Started out today with the unveiling of the original rainbow flag, which we saw in this film, and we get to leave each other tonight with the sentiment that Pride is as strong as the community between us. And we are really excited and really grateful to be able to provide resources and provide a space for folks to be able to see the full breadth of that community in its history and various forms. So I thank you, Gerard. I hope that we get to do more of these with you. This is, like I said, this is going to be a quarterly series, and I'm sure that this will not be the last time that we ask you, Gerard, to provide some wonderful commentary. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful and safe weekend. And if we don't see you before the end of the month, happy Pride. Have a good night, everyone.